This exercise is called the Lifeline. And this exercise is our first really interactive exercise where we're going to ask you to get involved and to really get deep with us. So the Lifeline exercise is really simple. I'm going to ask you to follow my directions to a T. Don't get ahead of me. Stay with me to get the most out of it. So this line represented on your screen is your life. We're going to assume for the sake of this exercise that 0 is the day that you were born and 100 is the day that you die. Now you're going to get to actually pick what day you die on your lifeline, but just for right and left limits, we pick 0 to 100. So the first thing that I'd like for you to do on this lifeline is get out a piece of paper if you haven't. I want you to actually write it down. Don't just do it in your brain. Draw your line that looks just like this one on the screen. And then think about how old are you? How old are you today? Today is P for present. So I'm going to ask you to draw a line just like the one that's on the 0 and the 100. So a vertical line. And I want you to draw that hash mark. And on the top, I want you to put P for present day. And on the bottom, I want you to put how old you are. So if you're 50, you'll have a P on top of your line and a 50 on the bottom, and it'll be right smack dab in the middle of this lifeline. So that P represents today. So P above the line and then your age below the line. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to think about the year in which you would like to retire. So for some of you that may be 55, 65, 70, please go ahead and put a vertical line, and on top, put an R for retire, and then underneath the age at which you would like to retire. So for those of you that like to ask a lot of questions, what do I mean by retire? What I'm talking about for your retirement age is when do you plan to stop going in and go to work? You might still have a side hustle. You might still have a revenue stream. You may have some investments, but I'm talking about when do you want to quit going to work? When do you want to just sit on your front porch and drink your iced tea and chill and watch the grandbabies or whatever? So pick that age. So now do some math. How many years do you have between P and R? So if you're 50, and I like easy math, if you're 50 right now and you chose 70 as your age of retirement, then you've got about 20 years in between today and the time that you retire. So what does that mean? Let's think about what that P to R line represents on your lifeline. To me, it represents two things that I want to share with you. The first is very pragmatic, right? The first is you've got that many years from P to R to earn all of the money that you need to earn so that you can retire and continue to live that same quality of life. Okay, so there's a financial piece to that P to R. But the other thing that I want you to consider in that time that is in between your two hash marks from P to R, however many years that is how long you have to achieve all of the professional goals that you want to in your life. And for those of you that have been a military spouse and you've been at home raising kids, or you've been out of the workforce for a while, you may not have thought of that. And if you're a veteran and you just getting out of the military, you've been out for a little while, you may never have stopped to think about, well, what do I want to do professionally now that I'm not out of the military? When I was in the military, my professional goal for me was I wanted to have command of a ship, right? I was in the Navy, and that was my be-all, end-all professional achievement. But then when I got out of the military in 2013, I didn't really take the time to think about what are my new professional goals? What do I want to do? For you, it might be earning a certain amount of money. It may be achieving CEO status. It may be building your business if you're an entrepreneur and then selling it off for millions of dollars. Whatever it is, I want you to actually take the time to think about between P to R, how much money do I need to earn? And then more intangibly, what are some goals that I want to achieve? All right, so let's move on. So we have P to R, present to retirement. Now I want you to think about that D-Day, that death day. When do you want to die? If you got to pick, when would you want to die? This is your lifeline. It's just, you're just doing an exercise, so relax. For me, I always thought, man, I don't want to be old and crusty and, in a nursing home and being a burden to my kids. So I always thought to myself, you know what? I think about 92 sounds like a good time for me to go. I watched my grandparents and I was like, yeah, think about 92. So that's what I would put if I was doing my lifeline. So I would put a D for dead on my vertical line and then underneath the age at which I will die. just for purpose of the exercise. You can have it be 100, you can have it be 200. Maybe you're going to freeze yourself cryogenically and wait for them to figure out how to fix whatever ails you. I don't care. It's your lifeline. But what I want you to do now is the same thing we did from the P to the R. Now we're looking from present to death, right? So P to D, if you're 50 and you say you're going to die when you're 92, that leaves you about 42 years left. 42 years, okay? So for me, that means over half my life is gone. I have to go. So what do I want you to think about with that present to death, that years, that amount of time that's in there? I want you to think about this. You've got that amount of time to achieve all of the personal goals. You've got P to R, which is all your professional goals, but this P to D, that's how much life you have left to do all of the things you want to do. Call it a bucket list. Call it a legacy. What are those things that are important to you that you want to make sure that you do? So when you're on your deathbed or you're in your grave and they're looking at your tombstone, what are they saying about you? And again, have you taken the time to think about this? I thought I did. And now that I've been doing this exercise and been working with clients and working with veterans and military spouses, I've realized that it's really super important to me to leave a legacy. And for me, not a huge, big legacy of change the world, but really a legacy of making sure that on a daily basis, my individual interactions are impacting the world in a positive way. But you may have some really big stuff. Maybe you want to leave a legacy and an example to your children and your grandchildren. But think about those things. That's what we're asking you to do while we're here on what you're going to learn about in a minute, Death Ground. We want you to think these big thoughts and really dive into what do you want your life to look like. All right, so we've done present to retirement. We've done present to death, okay? Now, one of the things that I forgot to ask you to do is I want you to own this lifeline. So I want you to put your first name right on top of that line, a few inches above that lifeline. I want you to write your first name. I'd have Kim up there, right? I'm going to own that this is my lifeline. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to think about that 0 to P. And I want you to write on top of the line in between the 0 and the P, write experience. Write experience. That from the time you were born all the way up until today, that signifies all of the life experiences that you've accumulated, right? And for a lot of us, that experience, a lot of that life experience has been surrounded by and been a part of our military experience. So what I'd like you to do above that experience, where you wrote experience, above that, I'd like you to put either your spouse's rank or rate, or if you're a veteran, the highest rank or rate that you achieved. So you can write 04, you can write 02, E5, Staff Sergeant, Command Master Chief, however you want to signify it. But I want you to put above experience that military rank or rate, because for so many of us, our experience between our time we were born till now is really accumulated in our military experience, and for you spouses as well. All right, so you're looking at that. You're looking at your lifeline. You're reflecting on all of those things. I wish I could be interactive with you and as a class, share with each other, this is how old I am, this is how many years I have to retire, here's what, I was at E5 or I was at O5 or whatever, all of those things. It'd be fun. It's fun to share and see just how diverse our population is in this class, because we'll have E4s to O9s, and we'll have people that are 28 and some that are 58. And it doesn't matter, because this journey that you're on, this career transition journey or this entrepreneurial journey that you're on, is the great equalizer. We're all feeling kind of the same way, as you're going to find out as you engage in the discussion boards and you read the answers to other people's questions. You're going to find that a lot of us, as we transition in our career throughout our lives, and especially from a military career, we feel a little uncertain, a little afraid, a little worried, all of those kinds of things, right? So let's get back to the exercise. Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to get really aggressive, and I would like you to erase or scribble out really, really strongly everything between the 0 and the P. I'm going to leave the P there because it is still today, but everything to the left of that lifeline, all that experience, all of that military stuff, rank, rate, I want you to scribble it out. Just get rid of it. Just mark it all out. Now, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel that I'm asking you to scribble all that stuff out, all that military experience, all your life experience, all the things that you've done, all your accomplishments? Some people are like, yeah, go ahead. And some people are like, I don't really like that. Why are you asking me to do that? Well, think about it for a minute. One of the big reasons I'm asking you to do that is because I really want you to focus in this course from today forward. I want you to think about your lifeline as more about what's left to the right than what you've accomplished to the left. Now, does it mean that I'm saying that your military experience, your time in the military, your spouse serving, all the things you've been through in your childhood, that's not important, that it doesn't matter, that it's not critical? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm asking you to do is just take that, bundle it up, the good, the bad, whatever it is that made you you, and then bring it forward to the P and let the rest of it go. And in doing so, you're going to find that you're able to get much more clarity on the P to the D. And that's the point of the lifeline. So I hope that by completing this exercise, you've really started to kind of think a little bit about how much time do you have left and what kind of goals do you want to set? What's really important to you? This lifeline exercise is the beginning of how we're going to start endeavoring on getting clarity on how you want to design your life, of which your career or your business is just a small part. There's a much more holistic picture to look at. In the questions that's going to come next in your experience or in your lesson, I'm going to ask you to answer 4 questions. And I want you to be brutally honest. These 4 questions, you can post anonymously, but it's going to allow you to share these answers to these questions with everybody else in your class. And you'll see what they are, but let me tell you what they are here, just for sake of completing and finishing out this exercise in this video. Number 1, I'm going to ask you, why are you here at ONU today? You could be doing a lot of different programs. You could be doing a lot of different things with your time, but you chose to endeavor in this online program. So number 1, why? Why ONU and why today? The second question that I'm going to ask you in the questions section of this lesson is, as it relates to your career search or building your business, if you're an entrepreneur, what is the biggest strength? What is your biggest strength? What characteristics or personality trait, what is your biggest strength as it relates to your career search and being successful? Now, if I ask you your biggest strength, you know number 3 is going to be your biggest weakness. So number 3 in the questions section is going to be, as it relates to your career search, what do you think is going to be your biggest obstacle, your biggest challenge, your biggest weakness that's going to hold you back from achieving what you want to achieve? And then finally, question 4 is going to ask you, what's your biggest fear? And I don't mean your biggest fear necessarily as it relates to this career search stuff. I mean, what's your biggest fear in life? And I want you to really think about that. And please feel free and feel safe to be vulnerable and be honest when answering that question. What's your biggest fear? All right, so with that said, I'm going to ask you to continue to reflect on this, to think big thoughts, to complete this lesson by sharing the answers to those questions and then hopping on the discussion board to get even more discussion going with those in your class. And I want to leave you with my favorite Sun Tzu quote, and that is, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. So if you're feeling like this career journey or building your business is just chaotic and crazy and uncertain, I just want you to remember that Sun Tzu, the great philosopher and military strategist, he would tell you, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. So go grab it. Take a hold of this opportunity.